Guys, welcome back to another one. And today we'll be talking about fear. Now, fear has always been one of my interests. I forget the title of the book, but recently, well, not recently, there was a point where I read a book on it, and I don't remember too much from reading it. It was a couple years ago. I was in school, I wasn't really paying that much attention. But something always stuck with me from it, is that fear should never be used as simply fear or an excuse to not do what you don't want to do. It should be used as a tool to figure out who you really are and what you need to change about your life. And that lesson always stuck with me, because I know for a while I was afraid of a lot of things. So after reading that book, I really had to take a step back and say, what am I afraid of? And why am I afraid of it? And I very much so encourage you guys to do the same. And I'm not saying it cured my fear. I'm not saying it helped me see the true light. But it really made me think deeper. That was, and probably always will be, one of the origins of this channel at all. It really got me thinking about it. And so, after a while of pondering not only just fear in general, but the fears that I had and why I might have them, I came to some pretty crazy solutions. Of course, those will be saved for a different video. But there were all these things happening, like the fear of death. It becomes a lot less powerful when you realize how many people have and not only that, but also why it's so human. Why the fear of death is so common in almost everybody you meet. You ask them what their number one fear is. Their answer is either gonna be spiders, the dark, or death. Oh, that's not a fact. Just to let you guys know. But in my general experiences, that's what I've seen. And fear, we very much as a society let fear control us. It's no longer a tool to help us survive like it was whenever we evolved into it. It's a hindrance almost. It hinders our ability to interact with the world. I know that for me personally is especially true. Now, why are our fears so strong? Why can they cripple us mentally and physically? Why is fear so commonplace and so untreated? Just some questions to think about. And what are you afraid of? We all have our fears, rational or not, or anything in between. We all fear something. Whether it be death, we fear change. We fear a lot of things as humans. And whether or not that's a bad thing or a good thing is very much so dependent on your personal beliefs, your personal life. But I've really used fear more recently as a tool of thought than of a controller of my life. Now, don't get me wrong, fear still very much so controls my life. But now, I not only just let it control my life, I take a piece of it, and use it. Because if we aren't learning from our fears, they're only going to get worse. They're only going to get more prevalent, more impactful, more harmful. And that's just the way it is. So, of course, the next step was to do a little bit more research. I don't know if I ever truly finished reading that book. I know I've wanted to go back and finish reading it, but it was very much so. Hold up, let me go grab it while I'm talking to you. It was very much so a wake-up call to me of my fears are not just to be feared, but they're to be used as a tool to be able to truly think about the world in a different light. So, and also I just looked for the book, I can't find it. But it was a very interesting book, and I'll make a community post with the title and author whenever I can find it. Just so you guys can go back and read it if you want to. But it was one of the best things I think I had read up until that point. And that sort of sent me down a rabbit hole of reading educational texts. I started reading recently the autobiography by Andrew Carnegie. I read a biography of Steve Jobs. I think that's it. I actually didn't do that much, but it did lead me down a bit of a rabbit hole of these educational texts, and I very much so enjoyed them. And that's another thing I want to touch on in other videos, but if you didn't enjoy reading educational texts in school, that doesn't mean you don't like educational texts. Just words of wisdom right here. But, yeah, so fear, and I think we do. It feels almost as if fear is the only emotion in today's society. It's so preyed upon in politics, we see it everywhere. It's so preyed upon in media. It's so up front and center every time you do anything in life. It's the fear to get up and present to the class. It's the fear that you'll embarrass yourself asking her out. It's whatever it may be. There is almost never been a situation on this earth where there hasn't been a fear or an anxiety involved. And we need to accept that a little more as a society, that fear is a thing. Fear is a common thing, and we really need to get better at recognizing that it is a thing, not only, but also doing something about it. Because you can recognize it's a problem all you want, but that's still not doing anything about the problem. Again, a tangent for another video. But that is almost all I've had to say about fear. We're finishing up the run here soon. So, I would love to hear your places on this. Like, what are some of your fears, and do you want to conquer them? Do you think fear should be used as a tool or as a guide of what should be avoided? Should we use fear, or should we ignore the things that we fear? And that's sort of always been one of the biggest questions in the world. Philosophers have asked it for years. And fear has very much so guided our society. It's always fear. That's the number one preyed upon emotion, because everybody's so quick to judge when they have something to lose. So, yeah. It's always been an interesting topic. So, if you haven't already, and you want to, leave a like, maybe, subscribe, all those YouTube things, boost the algorithm. I really feel like, again, I'll say it in every video, but this channel is all about building a community and asking questions. So if you have any questions to ask, leave them in the comments. I am 16, or well 17 now, videos into this whole series thing, And I would like to make 1,000. That's the end goal. 1,000 commentary videos about a bunch of topics that I feel like need to be talked about, or I want to talk about them. And that is a very large goal, and I'm already sort of running out of ideas without, of course, going upon the normal tropes and things. There is a part of this where, as I gain more experience in life, I'll get more commentary ideas. But right now I don't have much. And of course, I don't want to go into the covered multiple times sort of things, like relationships and things like that, because although those things are important in everybody's life, I just don't feel like it's my place to create that same type of video over and over again. But if you have any ideas for things you would like to hear me yap about on this channel, please leave them down in the comments. I'd be happy to read your ideas. So, that has been this commentary video, and I'll see you guys down in the comments.